Commissioner Bennett, your report notes that a small group of states have a carbon price. According to the most recent EIA data on carbon emissions, since 2010, those states have underperformed the rest of the country in reducing emissions. In addition, those states have electricity and energy prices significantly higher than the rest of the country. Furthermore, those states are now major importers of energy from other states. My state of West Virginia reduced emissions by nearly 10% from 2010 to 2017, nearly 20% since 2005, while California's emission levels were unchanged from 2010 to 2017 and only a paltry 5% below in 2005. At the same time, retail electricity prices in California are 78% higher than West Virginia's. I can't remember a time in West Virginia when we suffered from rolling blackouts because of energy starvation. If we have reduced emissions more and have cheaper energy, and we don't have any blackouts, what is the argument for my state to become more like California?
Congresswoman, thanks for the question. Again, I would just reiterate that the report is focused on sort of financial resiliency and not necessarily specifically the transition. But my response to your point, and there's the Reggie in the Northeast, and I know California has its own system. This goes to the point about this being an iterative process that has to be flexible along the way. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to have to build and probably be rebuilt and sort of evolve over time. I would suggest that, to your point, which are very valid points, that people will have to adapt, systems will have to adapt as we move forward to a net zero economy.
Well, I hope we have a lot of flexibility, because I don't want to adapt to be like California. And furthermore, I noticed that you mentioned in your testimony that your report recognizes that climate change already has placed disproportionate burdens on the low and moderate income households and historically marginalized communities. In order to combat climate change in West Virginia, we had a misguided renewable standard that forced our low-income individuals to choose between paying for their groceries or keeping their lights on. In fact, in California, civil rights leaders sued the state because the state of California's climate policies had a negative and a regressive impact on the poor and people of color. Commissioner, how would you respond that moving away from affordable baseload energy and instead moving towards expensive renewables actually harms low-income individuals and people of color?
Congressman, again, I'm going to focus on the resiliency standpoint. I think it's important as a broader matter that we transition. Obviously, as you pointed out, the report suggests, and there is evidence, that climate change disproportionately affects low to moderate income communities and rural communities. As we think about policy, and I know the report outlines this specifically, it recommends research and it recommends thinking to sort of address these unintended consequences. I can't, again, speak to the specifics of West Virginia and what's happened there, but again, to my earlier response to your first question, we're going to have to we have to adapt and we have to work towards the transition so that we don't have unintended consequences and burdens. But ultimately, I think it's important that we move forward, because if we don't move forward, we're going to continue to sort of endure these more extreme frequent weather events.
Well, I think unintended consequences are so, we need to be so careful with how we legislate. I know with my older retirees, when their electric bills tripled, they really, really struggled. I yield back my time.